Hello everyone, welcome back to Movie Recapped Girl. Imagine a modern passenger jet crashing into the chaos of World War II. That's the unbelievable action-packed survival story we're diving into today, Flight World War II. So the movie kicks off with a passenger plane, IA-42, heading from Dallas to London. Captain William Strong, the pilot, is giving everyone the lowdown on the flight, saying we should get to where we're going in about 7 hours. He also mentions that the weather is just right, so they won't run into any trouble on their trip. Captain Strong and his wingman Daniel Prentice have flown a bunch of flights together. While the two are chatting, something weird suddenly happens. The gadgets in the cockpit start acting weird, making Captain Strong ring up ground control. Luckily, they tell him there's nothing wrong with the plane and the weather up ahead is all good. So the pilots finally catch a break, but no sooner do they get a little bit further, they spot a huge storm coming their way. Surprised, Captain Strong quickly hits up ground control again because they just told him the skies were going to be clear. But they were surprised when the man said the storm just popped up out of the blue. Captain Strong's got no other choice but to tell everyone to stay put in their seats and try his best to weather the storm. Daniel, the co-pilot, isn't really feeling the plan, but the captain says it's the only option. So next, the two of them hang on tight through the crazy shaking, with all the passengers freaking out around them. Lucky for them, after a bit of a fright, the plane gets through the storm and it's smooth sailing in the sky. The passengers finally chill out, while the pilots are shocked to see the skies pitch black, like it's suddenly nighttime. Plus, all the signals in the plane are totally blocked too. So now, only the radar's up and running, and they can't talk to the folks back at ground control. Even though this happens, they figure it's just a glitch from the storm and keep moving on. But when they can't spot a single plane on their radar for half an hour, they start to smell something fishy. Captain Strong figures he'll do a loop with the plane, hoping to spot someone nearby. Before they start to land, he gives Cameron, one of the flight attendants, a ring and tells her to get everyone buckled in their seats. In the following bit, the pilots start going down, sticking to their plan, when all of a sudden, something pops up on their radar. Initially, the captain's all smiles, but the second Daniel says it's no ordinary plane, he starts freaking out. Guess what? They spot a bunch of fighter jets dropping bombs on a city. Looks like a war is going on. The passengers freak out, but the flight attendants chill them out fast, reassuring them that everything's going to be okay. Meanwhile, up in the pilot's seat, the pilots are just as shocked. But right when they start looking into it, a group of fighter jets starts flying around them. Just as they're about to get hit, they use their radar to dodge the attack and head back up into the sky. So they dodge the bullet for now, but the passengers are getting more and more freaked out every second. A few of them are begging Cameron to spill the beans, but she coolly lets them know she's got it all handled. Meanwhile, Captain Strong can't reach anyone on the ground and, because he doesn't have any idea where they are, decides to go back down. They're going to check out the area and figure out exactly where they are. Right away, Daniel's not on board because he's freaked out about the danger underneath. But when the captain says they're about to run out of gas, he gives in. Meanwhile, Dale and Bennett, who turn out to be historians, think something's fishy and decide to give the captain a heads up. They quietly slip into the cockpit and tell Captain Strong that the fighter planes they just saw haven't been built since 1945. Actually, they're the Luftwaffe, which was run by, you guessed it, the Nazis. After hearing what they said, Captain Strong gets really mad and tells Cameron to get those guys out of the cockpit. But Bennett keeps saying that they've somehow gone back in time to 1940, right in the middle of World War II. The history buffs realize the plane has gone off the radar, so Captain Strong hesitantly gives them 30 seconds to spill their beans. So the guys find out that they can't pick up any signals with the plane. This is because back in 1940, there weren't a lot of radio towers on the Western Allied front. They also talk about how the plane managed to fly through the 1940 bombing of Saint-Cyr, a planned attack by the Nazis on France's west coast. Meanwhile, the captain just gets more pissed off by all the guesses. thinking the historians are messing with him. He then tells them to go back to their seats and to keep quiet. In the next bit, the pilots try to drop the plane again, hoping they might pick up some radio signals. Good thing they're able to reach a British dude, who straight away asks the captain, "Who are you?" Captain Strong says they need help right away. But Nigel, the guy on the other end of the radio, isn't too sure about why they're asking. He thinks there's no way to pick up a radio signal from an airplane that's flying way up there. You know, during World War II, the Brits didn't have the fancy gear to pick up far-off signals. Captain Strong is in a race against time and desperately asks Nigel for help, but Nigel's not sure who they really are. So Captain Strong turns to Nigel and asks him what the date is. Nigel tells him it's June 17th, 1940. This totally throws the captains for a loop, and it finally hits them that the historians weren't just making stuff up. But they still can't get Nigel to believe that they're a regular passenger plane. Captain Strong is out of ideas, so he brings in the history buffs to have a chat with Nigel. Bennett figures out a general area based on his guesses, and he also points out that they've already gone past the place where the Lancastria sank. When Nigel hears this, he's really surprised, because back in his day, the Lancastria was still up and running. So he decides to check in with his boss to see if the guys are actually telling the truth. Back on the plane, a passenger hears what's being said in the cockpit and figures out what's going on. So he decides to handle it himself and stands up from his chair. So next, he tells everyone that somehow the plane's gone back in time to 1940, and now they're flying over France. He also lets them know that Hitler's forces are on the move, invading their country, and suggests they team up to stop him, suspecting he's just trying to get famous on TikTok. People label him as crazy, but some of them decide to team up with him anyway. So the new team decides to take over the controls and crash land the plane, but a few American soldiers quickly put a stop to it. Before long, a brawl starts up and even the flight attendants jump in the mix. Thankfully, the villains get taken down and are strapped to their chairs to keep them from making more trouble. So Nigel hits up the pilots again and tells them they were spot on about the Lancastria. He also says that the info they got helped them save a bunch of people. So Nigel finally decides he can trust Captain Strong and agrees to help him land the plane. But first, they need to figure out exactly where they are. Captain Strong and the history buffs have a ballpark idea of where they are, but it's still not quite enough. So the co-pilot figures out a way to turn their lights back on, so the British soldiers can see them. Bummer. The moment he does that, the Germans beat them to it, and a whole lot of fighter planes start circling them. They start shooting at the plane like crazy, making all the passengers freak out. Even so, Captain Strong keeps his cool and does his best to stop the attack. Then he hatches a scheme to ditch the Luftwaffe. When he counts to 3, he sends the plane diving down super steep, and just as it's about to crash into the ground, he yanks it back up. The Germans try to keep up too, but their planes aren't as high-tech, so they can't gain altitude and end up crashing. You'd think pro fighter pilots would be smarter, right? In the following scene, we find out Daniel was hit by a bullet during the attack, and the plane's a mess, full of bullet holes. Cameron swiftly patches up the wounds and gives Daniel some quick medical help. After that, Captain Strong finally makes up his mind to face the frightened passengers. He tells a flight attendant to grab the controls while he steps out. So he spills the beans about everything that's going on, and also says they're doing everything they can to get the plane down safely. So, the latest attack messed up the plane's landing gear, and they need some folks to help fix it. At first, everyone's too scared to peep a word, but soon enough, 2 gutsy passengers, Teresa and Hector, step up to the plate. Before long, the 3 of them head towards the back end of the plane to start checking it out. Teresa's an engineer, so she spots the issue right away and gets to work on sorting it out. After a bit, she pulls it off, but there's still one final hurdle. Something's stuck in the landing gear. So, to sort this out, someone's going to have to go down there and get rid of whatever's in the way. Captain Strong, who's a gutsy guy and the only one who can fly the plane, doesn't hesitate to put his life on the line. But Hector insists on doing it himself because the captain's role is more important. He then carefully heads down to the landing gear and with a hammer in hand sorts out the issue. After some time, Captain Strong goes back to the cabin and tries to reach out to Nigel once more. After that, he lets them know that the plane's fuel will only last another 80 minutes, so they've got to get help fast. While they're chatting, a couple of German planes suddenly start firing at their airplane. This time, they actually shoot off missiles, which totally shatters all the plane's windows. All the passengers are freaking out, so Captain Strong thinks up a new plan to dodge the bad guys. He uses his only piece of gear, the radar, to keep an eye on the bad guys. He pulls a fast one on the Germans and gets them to crash into each other, saving everyone. After that nerve-wracking moment, Daniel figures out that they can't go any lower, or the Germans will spot them. Just when it looks like there's no hope left, Bennett has a light bulb moment. He suggests they switch off the plane's radar and give control to Nigel, so he can steer them to safety. The captains aren't too sure about the plan, but they're out of options, so they go along with it. After that, they get back in touch with Nigel and fill him in on their plan. Nigel is shocked. They're ready to ditch their top weapon, but he still says yes to helping out. So, the pilots decide to give up the radar at a certain place, and they start getting ready to do that. In the following bit, the flight crew starts digging through everyone's bags, trying to find something that might make the landing a bit less bumpy. Right then, an old dude gives them some toy parachutes that he'd apparently bought for his grandkids. After this, they start getting ready for the drop. They swiftly bundle up the radar in a bunch of clothes and hang it with the parachutes. After some time, they get to the right place, toss the gadget from the plane, and let Nigel know about the drop. Bummer, the package ends up near the Swiss-German border, and the Nazis find it first. At that point, a bunch of British soldiers show up, and a serious gunfight breaks out between them. Luckily, the Nazis get taken out, and the Brits hand over the package to Nigel. He doesn't hang around. He quickly gets the radar going inside his base. Then he helps Captain Strong reach a safe spot using the gadget. At this point, the plane's almost out of gas, so the captain tells Nigel to hurry up and find a place to land. While he's checking out the area, he spots a huge dot on the radar that doesn't seem like any plane he's seen before. Turns out, that weird blip is just another storm, kind of like the one that zapped them into this world. Captain Strong sees this and suggests they go for it, because they don't have enough gas to land anywhere else. He then says bye to Nigel, thanking him for his help. Next up, he tells everyone on board that they're heading into another storm, and with a bit of luck, they'll all see each other again soon. Captain Strong gets ready and with Daniel steers the plane into the storm. Luckily, their plan works and poof, the aircraft is zapped back to the present day, ending up in Berlin. The thugs at ground control touch base with them, letting them know that they've got the whole runway to themselves for landing. Finally, after a crazy and scary 6 hours, Flight IA-42 lands. At the end of the movie, everyone cheers when the plane lands, and they all start getting off one at a time. After some time, Captain Strong also leaves the cockpit and sees the same old guy sitting by himself in the plane. Looks like he's working on a book, called The Radar System That Saved Europe. The movie wraps up with the big reveal that the old man is actually Nigel. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more incredible stories like this one, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell. I'll be back with another video soon.